The 89 trillion won pivot. Samsung's 89 trillion won operating profit for the second quarter isn't just a 19-fold jump. It is the first time their foundry division has actually paid for its own electricity in 3 years. While the headlines focus on the massive top-line surge, the real strategy is buried in the foundry utilization rates. Samsung has effectively stopped chasing mobile chip customers and redirected its most advanced 4-nanometer lines to build HBM4 base dies. This move solves two problems at once. It fixes their underutilized fabs and secures their dominance in the only memory segment with real pricing power. And that pricing power is about to get much more aggressive. The vertical integration advantage. HBM4 represents a fundamental shift in chip architecture because the base die is no longer just a passive interface. It is now a high-performance logic chip. This is where the industry's narrative about TSMC dominance hits a wall. Competitors like SK Hynix and Micron are forced to outsource their HBM4 base dies to external foundries, creating a margin stack that inflates their costs. Samsung is currently the only player capable of manufacturing the logic layer and the memory stack entirely in-house. This vertical integration allows them to capture the entire profit pool while avoiding the logistics bottlenecks and supply chain markups that will plague their rivals throughout 2026. This isn't a play for market share. It's a play for absolute margin control through the memory wall. The end of GPU primacy. The memory wall has effectively flipped the power dynamic between logic designers and manufacturers. When a $3,000 AI processor sits idle 40% of the time waiting for data, the bottleneck is no longer the GPU, it is the bandwidth. NVIDIA's Vera Rubin platform depends entirely on Samsung's ability to deliver 11.7 gigabits per second throughput. Because memory capacity for 2026 is already effectively sold out, Samsung is no longer a price taker in a cyclical market. They have become the de facto landlord of the AI data center. If you want the compute, you pay the memory tax, and Samsung's Q2 margins prove they are raising the rent. This shift in leverage is already starting to squeeze the OpEx of pure-play logic firms. The signal under the noise. The real takeaway from Samsung's earnings surge is that the semiconductor industry is moving away from the pure-play foundry model as the peak of the value chain. By leveraging their integrated device manufacturer status, Samsung has successfully weaponized their internal foundry to subsidize their memory lead, a move that directly addresses the architectural constraints mentioned in our analysis of the vertical integration advantage. For the first time in a decade, being a massive multi-divisional conglomerate is a structural asset rather than a management burden. This shift suggests that the era of logic designers capturing the lion's share of AI value is ending. As the memory wall becomes the permanent ceiling for compute performance, expect to see significant margin compression at logic-only firms as they are forced to compete for a shrinking slice of the silicon bill of materials. The specific indicator to watch now is the yield rate on Samsung's next-generation 2-nanometer base dies, which will determine if they can maintain this pricing floor through 2027. Subscribe for more.